Welcome to another 21 Hats Dashboard. Every Monday, Gene Marks and I talk about the stories and issues we think business owners should be following. Hello, Gene.
Hello, Loren. How are you?
Great to see you. Let's dive in, Gene. A lot to talk about this week. Some good stuff. You've been covering really interesting issues. You wrote one piece, I think last week, suggesting that the labor shortage may ease up a bit this year for business owners. Why do you think that?
There's a few things going on, Loren, that I think is going to have be good news for small business owners. I mean, first of all, when we talk about labor shortage, we know we're in historic shortage of labor, never seen before, the number of unfilled jobs. But we always had this issue, right? Even before COVID, it was always like the biggest problem. So I'm not going to say this problem is going to go away. I think it'll ease a little bit in 2022, and one of the biggest factors driving it will be inflation. The rosy side of inflation for we know as a small business owner, nobody likes rising prices and rising wages and,
except for your own.
Yeah, except for your own, of course, which actually gets to my point. As prices go up for, core things, and we just saw the inflation rate came out last week of, at a 40-year high. People are really need to get back to work that haven't been getting back to work before, and are, more reliant on their jobs, in order to pay these higher prices. And I think inflation is going to be driving a lot of workers back. And frankly, I'm not alone. I mean, Marty Musi, who's the CEO of Paychex, they have their monthly, employment report. And he was on CNBC on Squawk Box last week saying the same thing, that, they're seeing the employment numbers start to tick back up again at their customers. And, one of the factors is that inflation. Now, there are other factors, of course, unemployment, extra unemployment's gone away. No stimulus payments are going away. The child care credits don't, they're not, there. There's that extra payment in 2022 that's driving workers back. And of course, which I'm sure you'll agree, as Omicron starts to dissipate and as more and more states come to their senses and reducing the hysteria and allowing people to...
You just have to bait me, don't you?
Yeah, they have to, allowing people to actually live their lives, except for Philadelphia, where I still can't go into my grocery store without wearing a Darth Vader helmet. And went out to 3 restaurants this week in Philly, popular ones that Loren, for lunch and dinner, half empty, because who wants to come into Philly to eat when you can be in the suburbs? But anyway, I digress. Because Omicron is dissipating, because some of these mandates, these ridiculous things are starting to go away, I think that people feel more comfortable going back to their jobs. And the schools are staying open because, thank God, the school teachers are actually going to work, and therefore their students can go into schools and get educated instead of not being educated at all at home, and therefore people are more comfortable committing to a job long term. So all those factors, I think, are going to lead towards more employees coming back on the market in 2022, and I think we're going to be paying more for them, but I think it'll be good news.
It's funny. I looked at the stories that we picked to discuss, and I thought, you know what? There's nothing here that we disagree about. And then you just found a way to.
Lord, I got to tell you a story. Only because of COVID, and I know we're recording this, but so I was at a client in Bristol, Pennsylvania, yesterday, and on the way home along Route 13, I went to a diner in Bristol, and it was like I always go there. It's a great diner. And first of all, at the client, no masks, full parking lot. There were 80 employees were all there. We had 2 meetings with outside people. There were no masks. I went to the diner, didn't have to show a vaccine card. Of course, in Philadelphia, I have to do that. Okay, whatever. I went and I had lunch, finished lunch, went to pay my bill at the cash register. Next to the cash register, Loren, was a plate of cookies. And I said to the cashier, "Are these cookies for your customers?" She's like, "Yeah, sure. We put them out, take one, they're free." That means COVID is over. Weren't we just washing down our grocery bags like a year ago? And now, there's 3 plate of cookies. And I had one, and it was delicious.
Oh, Gene. I'm not going to be baited. We're going to move on. Next story on our list, also one that you wrote, and also on a related topic. The other reason why this labor shortage may ease a little bit is increased automation, which is a topic that you seem to really enjoy writing about.
I love it. And I'll tell you the reason why I love it. And I'm going to put on my Republican hat here, maybe Republican.
Really? Was it off, Gene? I didn't sense it was off.
It is very politically incorrect to fight against labor and employees and workers' rights and all that. And obviously it's all, there's all good rationale behind all of this. But come on, can we all agree that because there's such a shorter supply of workers, it's the workers' moment to really take advantage. They're protesting against their companies. They're not showing up for interviews. They're ghosting their employers. They're demanding more pay. They're demanding to work from home. They want all sorts of benefits and flexibility. And, it's now we've got the 4-day work week thing. So, let's work 4 days, but I still expect to get paid.
Wait, you came out in favor of that. We talked about that last week. You said it was good for businesses.
I think it can be good for businesses because this is what workers want. I'm not saying, just because they want it, that it's a great thing for business. But at the same time, if it's done in the right way, it can be a good benefit to offer to your employees. But it still demands are being made by workers because they can. And then, well, guess what? They're being replaced. And yet again, I've written about this in The Guardian. I've written about this in The Hill. And now I've written.
Because you can't get past it.
I can't. Well, the reason why I can't get past it is this. I am on the hunt. I have a few researchers that help me every day and provide me with articles of things affecting businesses and technologies. And then I look at that for things to write about, news going on. And again and again, I get story after story after story of restaurants and retailers and transportation firms and manufacturers and distributors investing in AI, investing in workflows, replacing, investing in robotics and robotic arms again. And I bookmark all these things. And then every couple of months, I'm going to do a roundup, just like you and I did back at the New York Times, of all of these stories of businesses, big and small, that are buying into robots and automation because it's more affordable and it replaces workers. And that is exactly what is going on. And if you look at the Washington Times this week, where I had my most recent article, I've got lots of examples from big companies and small: Chili's, Buffalo Wild Wings, Denny's, White Castle, Starbucks, cafes in Utah, trucking firms in the Midwest, Walmart. Read it, because you'll see again and again, these companies doing what they're being forced to do by these employees. They're getting rid of them.
Wouldn't they be doing this anyway? I mean, the machine is always going to be, more efficient and more reliable than an employee. So most of these businesses, if automation was going to be an option for them, they were probably going to pick that option anyway, weren't they?
Yeah, it's being accelerated. It's being accelerated by two things. First of all, the cost of the technology is coming down, but the reason why it's coming down is because so many more people are doing it. So therefore, it's providing more revenues for the companies that make these technologies, and hence the costs come down. But the other big reason is that there is such pressure from employees, even from the administration. We now want, higher minimum wages. We're now going to have higher overtime wages. We want more unionization. We're not allowed to classify people as independent contractors.
Is it your impression that workers have had it too good in this country over the last 40 years with too many raises? And is that what you're resentful about right now?
Not resentful about it at all. All I am just saying is that if workers are going to be arguing with their employers or calling employers out or complaining about their jobs or not showing up to jobs or staying at home and not coming to work at all, that's fine. Employers are just doing what they were planning on doing anyway. They're just doing it a lot faster. They're replacing their people with automation.
If they can you do that in your business? Can you automate what you do?
So in some cases, I can. So it's a really good question, Loren, because I've been thinking about that, pretty hard. Two things that I can automate for, because of some of the AI tools that have come out recently, they've cut back on the amount of time that my developers need to spend making changes to products, because they're sort of out of the box tools that allows them to do that. Secondly, we sell CRM applications. I use one that has AI now, new AI tools built into it. So I'm putting on my website more when people are asking questions or need help or have support questions, I'm building in some template answers to give them when they come onto our site, which cuts back time for people, my people to spend, and therefore could potentially cut back people as well. So, yeah, in a smaller way though.
Well, I don't know. I have no problem with businesses doing what they have to do to create the margins they need to survive and to thrive. I just sense a little gleefulness in your tone, and it worries me because I'm not sure you have a healthy relationship with employees. There's something troubling in your past that is causing you to be too happy about this, I think.
No, you know what? It's funny that you say that. I mean, my employees have been with me for a long time, and I respect people that show up to work hard, don't complain. If they feel they want more money, if they make reasonable demands, which people always do, I think that's fair enough. I mean, that's fine. What I don't like is, and maybe it's just the attention that you see more in the media than anywhere else, but it irks me, and I think it irks a lot of my clients and other business owners when they see employees taking advantage. Because there's a shortage of labor, they're complaining more.
The way the marketplace works, Gene.
Yeah,
it works for businesses a lot of times too.
Couldn't agree with you more. And that's exactly how the marketplace works. And I guess my warning in my Washington Times piece, Loren, was for employees just to be careful. Do a good job, keep your head down, treat your employer well. Because I got news for you. If you're a pain in the ass, you're gonna be the first one that's replaced by a robot, because that's what's happening all across the country.
All right, next story. Apple is going to let people let people pay businesses with their iPhones. Is this a big deal? Are businesses going to adopt this? Is this better than the existing technology?
I mean, listen, if I was at Square, I'd be shitting myself. I mean, I don't know. Are they Square, or they changed the name to Block, I think, didn't they?
Well, I think the service called Square is still called Square. The corporation is called Block. Right.
Okay. I guess I should have known that. But anyway, so that's a big problem. I mean, listen, as you know, Lon, when Square is just, everywhere, the card readers, they have the highest market share of all the competitors. But those card readers it amazes me when I take a taxi cab, even now. And it's sometimes, I can't tell you how many times I'll take a taxi from an airport to a hotel, and after the taxi driver pleads with me to pay in cash, and I say, no, I just have a credit card, they'll pull out their iPhone, they pull out the Square reader, they pull up the application, then it doesn't recognize it, and then they want to read my card, and then it takes forever, and it drives me nuts because the process it is what it is. Now, obviously, it works better for some than others. What Apple is promising to deliver is a much more seamless approach where you tap your credit card, because so many of them now you tap it against the iPhone once it's all set up, and the payment's all done. No readers, no separate software, no separate subscription. Now, will it cost more than Square? Were there fees? I mean, there will be fees, I'm sure. Curious to see how Apple's going to price this, but I think it's going to have a big impact, because, I mean, why would you get another outside service, and why would you have to worry about additional hardware, a little reader or whatever, when you can just, have your customers just tap your phone and you're all done? So I think it'll have a big impact.
There'll be fees because it's not Apple processing these payments, right? They have a deal with Stripe or somebody to do it. Is that right?
That is correct. But the question is, and Apple has not disclosed. I mean, how will Apple make money off this? I mean, is there revenue? Is there a model to charge for it, or is there a model just to be like, hey, this is just another benefit of having the iPhone? You know what I mean? So that remains to be seen.
Got it. All right. Here's a story I've really been looking forward to talking to you about. You just wrote kind of a how-to guide telling everyone how they can steal money from their friends' bank accounts. Can you explain that?
Sure. If you'd like me to pay your taxes, here's what you need to do. You need to, first of all, have me write you a check for something. So, okay, you need to find out my bank's routing number and account number. You find that from any regular check that's out there. And if you have somebody's routing number and account number, there are many, many places online where you can go to pay your bills just by entering in a routing number and account number of theoretically any bank account. And the reason why I bring this up is because I have a client, a nonprofit, that had this situation happen to them just earlier in January. They had a person that went to graduate school, and previously that same person had received a check from that nonprofit for something. So that person had the routing number and the account number from the nonprofit. So when it came time to go to pay for that person's tuition, he just went on the site of his school, and the site said, time to pay your tuition. Give us your routing number and account number for your bank account. He put in his routing number and bank account number of the nonprofit's bank account, and the payment came right out. He got paid. His tuition got paid. The nonprofit didn't realize it until they were reconciling their accounts over a month later. They didn't understand why $40,000 was just taken out of their account. Now, luckily, they reported it to the fraud department at the bank, and after some investigation, the bank reversed the charge and put it back into their account. But they didn't have that money in their account for that period of time. And if they weren't reconciling their accounts, like a lot of small businesses, trust me, don't pay that much attention to what's flowing through their bank accounts as often as they should. And if they had let it go even longer, who knows what the fraud department would have been. I talked to the fraud department on behalf of this client, and the person that I talked to there said, yeah, this kind of thing happens once in a while. You have to have protection set up on your bank account. Now, my client did not have this protection. What was the protection? Oh, they had to set up a separate service, Loren, for $55 a month, $55 a month at their bank account, so that whenever somebody that was not on a pre-approved list tried to withdraw, an ACH withdrawal from their account, they would get a notification of that before it happened so that they would have to approve.
Gene, there's so much about this that is mind-boggling.
Crazy.
But I guess the biggest thing is this has been possible all along. How is this not? Why hasn't there been a crime wave of this happening? Why haven't we been reading stories about this? Why hasn't this been solved?
I don't know the answer. It's a really good question. It was like the easiest thing in the world to do. And then the banks themselves, they seem like, when I talked to the person at the fraud department, they weren't even like, they weren't even rattled by it. They were like, yeah, you're right. Okay, well, we're going to reverse it. And, and sorry that happened. And if
do they know who did it? Did they go after the person who did it?
So that was another question. So I said, well, it's possible this person might have made a mistake, although I don't know how you make a mistake by putting in a completely wrong
look at
routing.
the wrong check. They thought they were looking at their own check. They looked at somebody else's.
Looking at the wrong.
It seems unlikely, but
could have been a mistake, or it could have been fraudulent. And the bank said to me, yeah, if you think it's fraud, you should file a police report. And I said to my, I was like, if this was a credit card transaction and somebody fraudulently charged my card, which happens to a lot, you guys would be, the banks go after that person, I assume, I don't follow a police report for that. But he said, yeah, it's just something different. It's an ACH thing. And, we tend not to pursue these things. So you just have to get the service so that you're protected. Now, I spoke to a handful of other clients after this happened. And in every case, when I say a handful, maybe 6 or 7 clients, in every case, they all had the service already. Like when they set up their checking accounts, they all had controllers or accounting managers. And when they set up their checking accounts, they made sure that this service was in place. My nonprofit client wasn't even aware that it was available, and apparently their banker didn't tell them, or maybe the banker did tell them, and they were just trying to save money. And they decided.
But this could happen to individuals too, right?
Correct. So you need to check your bank account. You need to say, and do you have it's ACH debit authorization protection against your account. Otherwise, Loren, give me your routing number and account number. I'm going to pay my taxes.
Well, I guess there are a couple of ways to deal with this. One of them is to never use a paper check.
Correct, which is incentive not to use paper checks going forward. Some banks offer services where if you do use a paper check, they have a way to hide the routing or the account numbers on the actual check itself. By the way, that's also for another fee. So that's something you can also consider. But, I have to, this whole prompted me to go and do a whole review of my accounts. I did not have this protection set up. And we do write checks. We use like the bank's, e-pay service where we put in for certain contractors and the bank sends them a check. And when they get my check, they get the check. It's got my routing and account number on it. So, and I'm not saying they've worked with me for years, but, it's still out there. So I had to make sure that I set up this additional service on my account. And I forget what we're paying, but
maybe as a favor to you, we should do a little test here. Why don't you give me your routing number and your account number right now, and let's see what happens.
Well, listen, Loren, I mean, here's the thing. I mean, I could invite all of our listeners to go out and do this and take that test. But given the fact that we really don't have any listeners, I don't really think I'm going to.
No, Gene, that was below the belt.
that was more on me than you. People have turned this off already once I get on.
Actually, people do listen. And I think a lot of people are going to be surprised to hear about this.
Yeah. Talk to your banker if you're a small business owner and individually talk to your bank and make sure you've got this service set up. Thank you.
All right. Gene Marks is a CPA who writes weekly on small business for The Guardian, The Hill, The Philadelphia Inquirer, The Washington Times, Forbes, and Entrepreneur. You can also hear him on ABC Radio's Eye on the World with John Batchelor. Gene hosts 2 small business podcasts of his own with Paychex Corporation and The Hartford. Thank you, Gene.
Loren, I love talking to you. Look forward to it next week.
Always a pleasure. Have a great week, everyone.
Take care.